The Supreme Court overnight rejected a request to block a new Texas law that effectively bans abortions in that state. The law states, quote, a physician may not knowingly perform or induce an abortion if the physician detects a fetal heartbeat, which could be as early as 6 weeks into a pregnancy and before some women even know that they are pregnant. There are no exceptions for rape or incest, only for medical emergencies. And a twist in this law. This law is not going to be enforced by any government officials. Instead, lawmakers empowered private citizens to bring lawsuits against anyone, family member, friend, doctor, nurse, Uber driver, anyone who helps a woman obtain an illegal abortion, offering a monetary reward of at least $10,000 to plaintiffs who win. So joining us now to discuss this, ABC News legal analyst Kate Shaw and senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer. Kate, what was your reaction to the Supreme Court's decision not to block this law, and what does it mean for women in Texas today?
Sure. So, Terry, the decision the Supreme Court made last night, writing an opinion refusing to block this law, just confirmed what the Supreme Court had actually already done the night before by its silence and inaction. The court hadn't weighed in at all about the constitutionality of this law before its effective date of September 1st, so the law went into effect. And last night, the court just confirmed what we had all kind of read the court as signaling, that it wasn't going to block this Texas law. So what does it mean? It's been 2 days the law has been in effect, and the impact has been immediate and dramatic. So most abortion providers in the state of Texas have stopped providing abortions to any individual beyond about 6 weeks of pregnancy. So if you're in Texas and you're more than 6 weeks pregnant, you can leave Texas to seek an abortion in another state, or you can try to find a provider in Texas who will provide an abortion. I think it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to do that. And even if by some fashion you're able to find someone to perform an abortion, that provider maybe will be exposed under this new law to serious legal penalties beginning at $10,000, and anyone who helps you to obtain that abortion may be facing similar serious legal penalties. So, I think the immediate impact has been basically the decimation of abortion access for most women in the state of Texas.
Devin, one of the striking things about this law is that it relies on ordinary citizens to enforce it rather than the state enforcing it. And that's really the main reason it got around this potential Supreme Court injunction. So how unusual is that aspect of this law? And do you think we'll see more of that now?
Well, in the words of Chief Justice John Roberts, Diane, he said it's not only unusual, but unprecedented. We don't see states in this country pass laws and then delegate enforcement of the laws to the general populace, to everyday people. It just doesn't happen. We don't do that. So this is an outlier. This is groundbreaking. It is new. And as Kate was talking about, it is sweeping in effect in Texas. And conservative lawmakers in several states are already talking about trying to create copycat laws. In fact, one legislature, Republican in Arkansas today, said he's already filing a bill with the exact same language as SB 8 in his state to block abortions there. So there is a lot of concern that we could start to see something of an arms race for laws like this around the country. And there are a lot of questions today about what this model could mean for other controversial issues in our society beyond abortion. I mean, one hypothetical that's come up is, imagine if a blue state, say the state of New York, passed a law that said it's illegal to have a gun in your home in that state, but we're not going to enforce it. We'll let everyday citizens enforce it. One would wonder whether this conservative majority would let that fly, but certainly raises a lot of questions now, and some talk of blue states, Democratic states, trying to go after their own priorities, doing laws like this.
Kate, that just sounds like madness to me in some ways. But more broadly here, what does this whole situation tell us about this Supreme Court and abortion rights? Is Roe versus Wade, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, do you think they're good as gone?
I think these decisions that have protected the constitutional right to abortion for nearly 50 years are as good as gone, at least, not today in 49 of the 50 states, but probably by the end of this Supreme Court term. The thing is, the Supreme Court already has in front of it an opinion, a case that asks it to reconsider Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey. That's a Mississippi case with a 15-week ban on abortion, and the court has already agreed to hear that case. So it has the opportunity just in a couple of months to decide the question of the future of legal abortion in this country, at least as a constitutional matter. And I think it's striking that the court didn't even wait to resolve that case before letting this Texas law go into effect. It could certainly have blocked this law temporarily, waited to decide the Mississippi case, and then if Roe versus Wade is overturned, then the legal landscape changes dramatically. But it was so striking to me, Terry, that the court didn't even have the patience for that. Instead, wanted to let this Texas law, which, as Devin just said, is really unprecedented now or historically, go into effect, essentially eviscerating Roe in this, the second most populous state in the country. And it seems to me an almost unmistakable signal that at least the 5 very conservative justices on the Supreme Court will overturn Roe at the first possible opportunity.
And Devin, Democrats are trying to counter this on a federal level. President Biden announced a whole of government approach. House Speaker Pelosi is talking about passing new laws, and they do have a number of options. There's also been talk about expanding the Supreme Court. So what do you think we're going to see here? Does this put more pressure on Congress to pass a law in this relation? And which of these options do you think they'll take, if any?
Well, it's been on the table for a long time, Diane. I mean, one of the ways that abortion rights advocates could basically neutralize the court in this debate is to pass a law, write it into law that women have the right to seek abortion access and abortion services in this country. That has been difficult, and for a lot of reasons, the politics around it certainly. There is talk today of bringing up some legislation that's been around for a little while for a vote. I am told that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, as soon as Congress reconvenes in the coming days, that they will take a vote. It's called the Women's Health Protection Act. Given the narrow majorities in the House and the Senate, though, as we've talked about a lot of these progressive priorities lately, it's difficult to see a path forward for that bill and to get it signed by President Biden. As for changing the court, there certainly is going to be a lot of talk about that now in the wake of the court's action here in Texas. There is the Presidential Commission drafting some recommendations to overhaul the court. That's due later this year. But if you're looking for a quick fix to this situation in Texas and looming broader fight over abortion rights in this country later this year, those two solutions aren't very likely at this point, I don't think.
And so, Kate, let's focus again on Texas. Women in Texas now are virtually without access to what is still their constitutional right to choose to have an abortion. At some point, doesn't this get before a judge, and the judge will say, well, Roe versus Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, they're still good law. Texas, you can't do this. Or is it more complicated than that? What happens next here?
Well, certainly you would think, Terry, that if a judge had a chance to look at the merits of this law, which is a ban on abortion, it's not a hard question whether this law is consistent with Roe and Casey. It's not. The law is plainly unconstitutional. But the uniqueness of the law makes reaching the merits actually rather difficult. So the reason the Supreme Court the majority gave for not interceding last night was that this is a procedurally complex case precisely because the law is designed in a unique way with this private enforcement. It's not clear who the right defendant is. Normally, when a state passes an abortion ban, advocates sue state officials who enforce that ban, and that's how a judge reviews the challenge and enjoins the officials from this illegal enforcement. It's not totally clear who you enjoin here until someone has undertaken some kind of civil action to actually, act under the law. So I think once we see suits actually filed under this law, a court will be able to reach the merits and should, on existing law, find it unconstitutional. But the question is, what is lost in the meantime? And at the moment, it seems as though access to the constitutionally protected right to an abortion is functionally unavailable in Texas. And even if that's only for a short time, until a judge actually has the opportunity to enjoin the law, the stakes are constitutionally extremely high. But I do think it's important to underscore the court's ruling last night was not the final word on this law. And it may well be that sooner rather than later, a judge does reach the merits, finds the law unconstitutional, and restores abortion access in Texas, at least temporarily, although, as we've said, the sort of long-term picture with this very conservative Supreme Court is certainly not a favorable one for abortion rights.
All right, Kate Shaw, Devin Dwyer, thank you both.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.